Hello there, and in this video we are not going to be doing anything with VEP, I'm afraid. No, we're going to be taking another look at the V70, which, having just sorted the gearbox out with, I've now got a few other problems. So yes, if you watched a previous video, you might have seen, that's assuming I actually bothered editing it and releasing it, that I've had a problem with this rear wheel binding. Today's new V70 problem is this. I think I have now got a seized brake caliper. Joy. So as you can see, not ideal. Got very, very, very hot indeed. I have had one go at freeing it off, but unfortunately it's still causing me problems, and having just recently completed the gearbox service on this, I can't really push it or take it too far because of this binding. So what we're going to do today is we're going to actually replace both rear calipers, because I figured if one side was bad, chances are the other side's going to wind up being bad as well. And in order to do that, I've got my trusty trolley jack, obviously an axle stand. I bought this Sealy brake bleed kit to hopefully make life easier, some flare tools for removing the brake lines themselves, another kit for bleeding at the other end. Because I'm doing this on my own, I obviously don't want any air going back the other side each time I open and close the valve, so I'm hoping that this is going to prevent that. A tool to crimp off the brake pipe as I remove the existing caliper, some brand new brake pads. I'll show you why I've bought brand new brake pads in a minute, and obviously some brake fluid, tools, and the calipers themselves. Now, I've bought these Febi ones off eBay. You can't get the genuine Volvo items anymore, and all the ATE ones, who are the original OEM manufacturer for these, are Reman ones. These were only about £35 each, which is quite cheap for brake calipers, so I'm hoping that's not going to come back and bite me in the bum. But of course, if it does, it'll be for your entertainment on here. And last thing I forgot to mention is just some pad lubricants as well for pins and bits and pieces. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this little piece of kit works. It wasn't cheap, but as at some point I will do a full brake fluid exchange on this car, I figured having this was an investment and would make it easier for any other cars I buy in the future. Anyway, that's enough of me waffling. Let's get this wheel off and get the car. Well, no, let's get the car up in the air first and then the wheel off. Let's do things in the right order, eh? Yeah, these have seen better days now, unfortunately. They were cheap. I think next time I might just get a set of plain black plastic ones, because chrome ones looked great initially, but weirdly enough it's all flaking off. Might have something to do with the amount of wheel product I use. Just crack these loose. Yeah, that seems all right. Right, so. My breaker bar's gone for a ride. The same thing every time, wind up catching that dust shield. Right, let's just roll this out of the way. So first thing I'm going to do, I want to compress this caliper back slightly, just to help get it out later. What should mean that hopefully I'll be able to withdraw the pads without too much trouble. Yeah, pads are free. It's really weird how that keeps binding. Hope this doesn't mean I've got some other problem with the car that I don't know about. Get those clips off, and that's looking rather frightening and rusty, if I'm perfectly honest with you. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some BDX on that and just give that a chance to soak in. And while that's penetrating in, I'll get the pipe clamped. In fact, let's just get this ABS wire out of the road, because that's going to get in the way of things as well. So I think the idea behind this is supposed to pinch the pipe without damaging it, I believe. Hopefully the BDX has had long enough now to soak in a bit, because what I'm going to do, before I start the process of removing the caliper. This is likely to be tight, so I'm going to loosen this brake fixing first. Now I have bought some open-end sort of flare spanners, which I'm hoping is going to make this easier. Although when I tried the fit on this, I became a bit dubious as to whether or not it would be. That is, oh yeah, that has just rounded. I could be in for a world of pain here. Let's just try it with a regular spanner, I think, then. That is just made of cheese and rust. It's moving. I think the ring spanners were a waste of money though, because they didn't have a very good grip on that. A conventional spanner is much tighter on there. So yeah, they were a waste of money. Well, it did move. Either that or I'm just rounding this bolt off. I'll tell you what I was doing there, I was tightening it. Good job I didn't keep going that way, wasn't it? I forgot the old righty-tighty, lefty-loosey rule, which goes to explain a thing or two. Let's get the rest of this off now. So, first things first, I'll pop this spring out of the way. Having done this recently a couple of times, you would think I'd be a little bit more proficient at this by now. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. Come on, there you come. Talk amongst yourselves, folks. I swear this wasn't this hard to get out last time. There we go, it's free. Right, now I need to get these two, I think it might be 7mm hexes. Yeah, 7mm hex. Some silly bugger did these up quite tight. I have a shorter version of this bit somewhere, I don't know where it is. The two calipers I've got, one of them came with slide pins and one of them didn't for some strange reason that doesn't make a great deal of sense to me. I'll have to look into that. There we go, that's one pin free. Find the right hole. And all the associated jokes with that. Now, in an ideal world, I'd probably also renew the rear brake discs, if I'm honest with you, because they've had a lot of heat in them, but these have only done about 10,000 miles, and a set of genuine Volvo discs, which is probably what I would prefer to put on this. Won't be cheap now, but I'll show you in a moment why I've decided to renew the pads, because I'm really not happy with the state of those. Oh, come on. That's awkwardly stiff. Okay. Right, so the caliper should now be free, which I think it is. Yep. Let's get those slide pins out. I think they've got to come out. Yeah, they've got to come out all the way, I think. Come on. I've got one out. Stick that in a plastic bag because I don't really want them getting gritty in case I have to reuse them. Here we go. Relax, Dave. Just relax. I tend to rush jobs like this and attack them with a slightly manic energy, which makes them more stressful and, to be honest with you, take longer than they need to, rather than just slowing down and taking my time with everything. Well, that's the one tip I can probably give you if you're ever tackling a job like this on your own, is don't rush it. Just, you know, it's like if I'd have kept pressing on and pressing on and pressing on there, I could have quite easily snapped that. You know, just take a moment, stop, think about what's going on, and if something doesn't feel right, stop and reevaluate it. Don't keep sort of pushing on and pushing on. Right, anyway, waffling over for a moment. I'm going to lift the caliper away, and we'll just rest that up there. Hopefully it's not going to fall anywhere. It shouldn't do, he says. There we go. I'll show you the state of this outer brake pad. So if you look at that brake pad, see how all the backing is kind of just coming off it and ruined? I think it's just basically melted because of the heat. And because, like I say, there's been so much heat put into these pads, even though there's loads of life left in them otherwise, I am very wary about continuing to use these, which is why I'm going to swap them for new ones. So, in an ideal world, I'd have perhaps done this disc as well, or both discs, but we'll have to see for now whether or not I still have any problems post-change. Right, and now I think the general idea is just to sort of unscrew this from there. I fear I've just seen brake fluid, but it could just be BDX I'm seeing. Okay, there we go. And brake fluid is not pissing out the pipe, so I'll call that a result as well. Probably will piss out the caliper in a second. So yeah, that is one nasty, old, rusty brake caliper. How's the end of that connector looking? Not too bad. Obviously I don't want to get any crap immediately inside where those threads are and in that housing, and therefore in the new caliper. So, right, just going to leave that sitting on there for the moment. Right, I suppose we're going to get the other caliper now and make sure that the two match up. Right, okay then, so here's our new and old calipers in a side-by-side comparison. So this is a Febi one. I don't know if it's a reman or whether it's an original or not. But they do look pretty similar to me. Same layout, same connections, the bleed nipples in the same point, and the dimensions look pretty much the same on both calipers. So I'm happy enough that that's going to be good enough to go in. What I am going to do is I'm going to take these pins and I'm just going to give them a bit of a grease up, because there's no grease on them, before fitting them in. Let's check, just see how the old pads were sitting on there, just to make sure there's no obvious signs that they would have been binding or having any problems. It seemed to be. So I'm just going to pop these pins out and give them a little bit of grease, just to make sure that they're going to slide around nicely in the new caliper. Obviously no need to overdo it, but do want a bit of grease on them. Just to ensure that they're going to slide nice and free in their housings. There we go, that feels alright. Same with that one. Yes, never underestimate the value of a cup of hot brown to get you through a job, or in my case, by the time I've done with this, several, because I'm going to do the other side as well. Should point out at this stage, I'm probably not going to bother filming the other side, because once you've seen one side, you know roughly what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm going to finish this off, and then we'll get the other side underway. Okay, let's get this caliper back on. So pop the little protective cap out. And then I just need to rotate this onto this thread, which may be easier said than done, I suspect. And obviously, I very much do not want to cross-thread this either, so bear with me. I'm just going to take my time with this. Yeah, I think that's caught it. Okay. Alright, now, there's that going to leave me? That's going to leave me there. Just need to make sure I'm not going to have a kink that I don't want in the pipe. So, have I got a twist there? I don't think I have got a twist there. No, I think that's fine. Just going to settle that down on there at the moment. Just have a look at that and see if I think I'm happy with it. I think that looks about right actually. There's no pigtail in it. There's no pigtail in the pipe. It doesn't seem twisted. or anything like that. It wasn't stupidly tight to begin with, so I'm not going to stupidly over tighten it now, and the threads on this seem to be down into the same sort of position as they were before, so I'm not going to go any tighter than that. Hopefully that is sufficient. If fluid bursts everywhere, then we'll know I've underdone it. Now I've done that, I'm just going to park that up there for a moment, just whilst I fetch the brake pads out. So I've got some brand new pads to go in. I'm just going to put a little bit of pin lubrication where these sit and run, not masses, just a tiny bit. I think sometimes, to be honest with you, if you over lubricate pads, you can wind up with the opposite problem, because all it winds up doing is just gathering dirt in those areas. I could be wrong, but I don't think they actually put anything on them from the factory. I don't know. If you know about that, why don't you stick it in the comments and let me know. Right, let's clip that pad into that caliper there. So just getting a little bit of lube onto these. I'm not going to bother putting anything on the back of the pads either, because it's already got, that's effectively an anti-squeal system anyway. And those are my instructions blowing away. Excellent. In you go. Okay, right, so I'll just take my brake caliper and hopefully it should be back sufficiently that I should be able to just slide it straight on. He says I might need to push those 2 retaining pins back first though. Excellent work, Dave. You're getting a very real representation of how these jobs go. You know me, I don't cut out the fluffs. Sooner show it you as it is, and then you get an idea what the job might be like should you decide to try and tackle it for yourself. Right, let's just get this top hex started. Obviously it's very loose because there's no pressure yet on the pads. Yeah, they feel like they've started now into the housing. I think the other thing I should be able to hopefully do now actually is release this pipe, this clamp rather. So this will be the other test, is if fluid suddenly spews everywhere now that I've undone this. Hopefully I haven't crimped that a little bit. Oh no, it's returning its shape fairly quickly. I think we're all right. We're good. There we go. You can see where I clamped it. I'm just going to clip some of these back where they should be. That's all that in place. Right, let's finish. Oh, I've got that routed wrong. That's why that was causing me a problem. It's better. Right, let's get these done up. That's done up good and tight. Repeat the same for the bottom one. I might need my extender bar on that one. So I might need to get it in the right hole. Oh no. Okay. So they're both done up. Obviously the caliper is going to sit a little bit loose for the moment because it is not got any form of pad to brake pad pressure on it. Let's get that spring back on first before I do anything else. Okay, let's try and get this spring back on. It can only go one way up. That doesn't look the same to me for some reason. What's different there? It looks the same. And it's definitely the same way up because the markings on it are the same. Interesting. Might just push those in a little tighter. Right then, so that's as together as it's going to get, I think, for the moment. I'm not all that happy with that spring, but we'll see how things look once I've laid everything down and had a chance to get that caliper to settle as it should be. Next thing I'm going to do though is get the bleeding system connected up. Right then, I'll just swap to the phone to show you the setup. So I've got the Sealy pumping unit. It's got about 2 litres of brake fluid in it, and then that's connected to the reservoir at the top. And the idea is I'll use this to pressurise the brake system and then I can bleed it from the other end. This is of course assuming all the connectors stay tight enough and brake fluid doesn't go everywhere. I can't remember now what the recommended PSI is for this. Let's see if there's any instructions on it. Use the hand pump to pressurise the system to the pressure recommended in the service manual, but do not exceed 28 PSI. Useful, so no, it doesn't tell me. Alright, so I need to make sure that's up nice and tight. That's up nice and tight. Like I say, if I need to release pressure from the system, I just push down on that little valve and it should release it. So let's see what happens. Pressure is going up. What I might do is just take it up to 10 and then see if it holds pressure or not. Set at 10, it's holding pressure. Okay, I'm going to use 20 as a starting point, I think. Don't want to go any higher than that. I'm going to leave it for a few minutes, make sure it's holding pressure, and then we'll come back and we'll have a go at bleeding the caliper. Right then, so it's a little one-man kit for the other end. The system is pressurised, so it shouldn't, in theory, be needed anyway, but so this is just to try and stop me from reintroducing air as I do up and undo the bleed screw. So I'm going to pop this onto there like that, and then just keep an eye on what's coming out of the tube, and hopefully we'll know when we're sorted, because there should be no more little bubbles. Perhaps should have checked I could crack these before I fitted them. There we go, it's coming. Interesting. Oh no, there is fluid coming out. Started to get worried then for a second. Not quite as much pressure in that as I expected. Maybe I do need to back it off that bit more. Okay, stuff coming out now. And just go and check the pressure now at the other end. It's curious, still showing sugar, plenty of pressure at the other end, which makes me wonder. Also makes me wonder if something funny is going on with this. I had my doubts about this container, to be honest with you, because it's got like a little return valve in, and I wonder whether it's not actually letting enough through. This is turning into a faffy mess. All I really needed, to be honest with you, was a bottle with a tube on it that took fluid back, and I feel like this is messing me about now. Give it one more go, and then I think I'm just going to wind up cutting this tube down so that it just drains straight in, because I think it's just adding resistance I don't need to the bleed process. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. Sod it. One moment. So all I've wound up doing, there's actually a little hole in that pipe, so I've just taken that out, and it'll just act as a straight drain now. Just taking the rubber bung that was in there off, and we'll see if it drains any more easily now. That's flowing better. That's what I wanted. Doesn't seem to be any more air coming out, so I think what I'm going to do for the moment, I'm going to go and release the pressure on the pump. I'm going to press the brake pedal a couple of times to reseat this caliper, and then we'll repeat this process again and just see what it does. Okay, let's see how things look now then. So that's now grabbed it, I think. It looks a little bit more seated anyway. Is that pushed? Yeah, it's clamped it all the way. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to repeat the process I just did. I'm going to basically repressurise it, and then see if I get any more air out the system. Oh, great, getting it everywhere, look. Right, let's put that on there. Stick that on the floor. Clean up stuff I'm getting everywhere. That brake fluid that's coming out looks absolutely awful. I probably will, in a future video, use that machine to do a full fluid exchange on this car, but I don't think that will be today. Same again. Let's see if any more bubbles come out. I've seen a few there, look. I'm actually starting to get a slightly better flow now as well than I had first time. Bit of a cheat doing it that way. You're not really supposed to do it that way, but I just want to see if there's any bubbles coming out as I open the caliper itself. And there don't seem to be. So I'll give this a clean up. What I'm going to do, I'm going to press the brake pedal hard a couple of times again now, and we'll just see whether or not I've got a good firm brake pedal or not. Okay, so I've given the brake pedal a good press, a good few times. That's definitely now clamping that onto there. That feels like that's seated. That spring looks more roughly where I would expect it to be as well. So I've got a good brake pedal feel, and there weren't any bubbles when I undid that. There's no leaks around this flexi, so I'm going to just get everything cleaned up now, and then I'll crack on and get the other side done. As you can see, the old fluid that was coming out was really rather awful. I might go and decant that somewhere before I get the other side done. It's not a 14, Dave. That's not going to get you anywhere. Where's your 10 gone? Just want to make sure that's tight. Tight was towards me. Yep, that's tight enough. No silly business. Right, stick my little cap back on. Good opportunity to see how these tyres are wearing as well. I'll do a review on these at some point. These are Goodyear Vector 4 Season Gen 3s. And I've got to say, they completely transformed this car when I fitted them. Originally, some of you knew the car earlier on in the channel. It had a set of 16-inch wheels with some Sumitomo BC100 tyres, which were crap, to be perfectly honest with you. Whereas it drives substantially nicer on these, I must say. This is where Americans will go, why don't European manufacturers have studs? And you know something, every time I go through this, I ask myself a similar question. Why don't the European manufacturers use studs? They used to. I'm sure my dad's Cavalier had studs, and I know a neighbour's, even semi-recent Fiesta had studs. So why have we swapped to bolts? What's the benefit of bolts versus studs? So no, if you're a mechanic or an engineer and you know, tell me in the comments below, why do we have bolts versus studs now on cars? I've even seen, I think in the States they do like I think it's a single one of these that you thread in to make it easier to put the wheels back on. So I think the idea is you thread it into the hub, line your wheel up onto here, and then put the rest of the bolts in, and then take that last kind of temporary screw-in stud out. For how often I do this, I don't need it, but I can understand the appeal and why some people might want to. I'm waffling now. It's getting quite warm. That's the reason I'm trying to get this job done today, because it is, I think, the 2nd of July 2024, and we've had a thoroughly rubbish summer of cancelled events, waterlogged grounds, and although we've enjoyed a couple of relatively warm days, I do fear it's going to get very wet again shortly. So anyway, let's get this tightened up. I apologise in advance, by the way, if I'm showing you any bottom. This is the other reason I've worn my Rustival top, because they are a pleasing length, and it means that the probability of accidentally exposing bottom whilst doing a wrenching video is reduced. Incidentally, the second Rustival of 2024 is coming up in September. I forget the exact date, I'll put it on screen now. Now I should really take VEP, but if I am successful in saving this car with the gearbox work I've recently done, I might actually take this. Obviously it won't have quite as many fans as VEP, but you know, I think there's a bit of love out there for this car, so it would be nice to sort of do that for folk. I really ought to invest in an impact gun, you know, and probably make jobs like this easier as well. And yes, I will tighten these with a torque wrench before I take the car on a test drive, don't worry. Torquing the wheels is always the last step for me. I'll get the other side's brakes done first, because I'm not driving on one new caliper and one new set of brake pads. I'm probably also going to leave my test drive till a fair bit later on. I might move it backwards and forwards on the drive once or twice just to verify I have got brakes, but I'll do my test drive later on in the day when there's less traffic around, just in case I've cocked anything up or there are any problems. Give it back. Right. Lovely P2 handbrake. That is normal. That is the amount of movement you get off those shoes. Rubbish. Right, let's get the stands out from underneath and get this lowered back down. Make sure I've not left anything loose underneath, which I don't think I have. And lower it down, and hopefully my SGS jack will come down smoothly, because unfortunately these things have a reputation of not coming down smoothly, annoyingly. I've been told that the trick is to have the handle bent, apparently. Probably. Oi, yeah, that initial twist is a bit too stiff. There we go. Whew. Done. There we go, one nice shiny silver caliper fitted. So I'm going to sit down for a moment. Oh, there we go. So yeah, I'm not going to bother filming doing the other side. I think you get the general idea now about how the job works, and we'll pick this up when I'm ready to take the vehicle for a test drive in a bit, unless any calamity happens on the other side, which is always a possibility, in which case this will be back on and I'll be showing you the calamity. So fingers crossed for no calamity, eh? So the one little thing I've had to do this side, yeah, I'm not using my mic or anything, but for whatever reason I didn't get slide pins with that caliper. I don't know why, but you can see that old slide pin is looking a bit well mullered. I don't want to find myself in the position where that rounds out and I can't undo it, so I've taken the two best used slide pins I've got and I'm going to put them in that caliper. So one little tweak I have done with this process, like I say, I've removed the valve. I reckon this process is designed to work if you're pressing the brake pedal, and my guess is you probably get more pressure than I'm getting through the bleeding system, which is a slower process, but I think that little plastic clip is designed to hold this on and make a tighter seal, because I think when I was trying to do my initial bleed it wasn't tight on the bleed nipple and I was getting air around it and back in. We'll see if it makes any difference anyway. I'm just going to pressurise it up now and bleed this caliper after I've put that spring on. Let's not forget that spring. Right then, so I've done the other side, and all I'm going to do, just to satisfy my immediate curiosity, is I'm going to move the car backwards and forwards on the drive a few times just to make sure I've got brake pedal pressure and everything feels okay. Annoyingly, I've then got some things I've got to do for work. I work in software and systems, and I have some updates I've got to apply. So what I'll wind up doing is having some tea, doing that work, and then we'll jump back into this car for a road test and to check on that caliper on the near side after that. Because if that near side caliper is still getting hot after I've done this work, it probably means that it's a failure somewhere else in the system. It could be that flexi hose is collapsed, or maybe there's a fault with the ABS pump or something that's causing the brake to be applied to that side. But like I say, all I'm going to do for now is just move this backwards and forwards a few times, see how it feels, and just make sure there's no problems. So yeah, here we go. It's not going to be a very long journey. It's literally just going to be backwards and forwards on the driveway, just to make sure that I've got a brake pedal. Just going to press it a few times first. Brake pedal itself feels nice and solid. That back box is very blowy now. I might have to see if I can do something about that. Oh, hay fever's getting me. Excuse me. Okay, so I have brakes. That's the main thing. To drive again. So I'm going to be able to stop the car. That's the main thing I wanted to check. So, okay. I'll just check the level again now. I've done this a few times as well, and just make sure it's not dropped. No warning messages related to the brakes either. We'll see how it feels on a test drive, I think. So give me a couple of hours and I will get the other bits I need to get done, and then we'll go out in the car and see how it feels. Okay then, so I've got everything together. I've got a fully charged mobile phone in case I run into any problems. I've got a litre of spare brake fluid should I need it, and the tools should I need them if for any reason there's a problem with any of the connections that I've done up. And obviously I'll only go so far initially just to make sure I'm happy, but if I don't encounter any major problems, the idea is I'll just keep going and I'll use this drive to burnish the brakes in. Probably not going to capture much driving footage because, as you can see, it's already getting a bit dark, but I'll leave it rolling for a little bit just in case anything happens. Hopefully nothing does. Right, okay, I've just made it back. I've probably included a little time lapse of the drive. Yeah, things seem okay. I do think I've got a tiny bit of brake judder, which is a little frustrating on the rear. So it probably does mean that one of those rear discs is distorted. The only other thing is the judder I'm feeling could be the front. And to be fair, the drive I've just been on was a very quiet, very analytical, no radio on, minimum fan drive, which I don't actually do very often. But we'll see, it could even be that they'll bed in. In terms of the gearbox, just to give you a little update on that, in fact, how many miles has we done now? So we've done not a huge number, I've done 66 miles since resetting the service indicator, so I've probably add another 20 to that for the other test drive. So we've done about 80 miles so far. And the gearbox generally is pretty well behaved, to be honest with you. It's certainly not perfect. I'm still picking up little clunks and little hesitations. If you're in a situation where you're quick on the throttle, you can get a bit of a snatch, but if you drive it smoothly, it's genuinely pretty good. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens with it. So I guess that's it for this one. I'll probably do another video as and when I wind up doing the front discs, if, of course, assuming the gearbox on this survives. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please do consider subscribing before you go, and I'll see you in a future one. Cheerio.